An amazing Race for 8 2 season. We hit some of the greatest handball communities in the country. And Dave, it's been a year that was filled with excitement, enthusiasm, and great handball.
Paul came in and scored 13 straight points and then just rolled from that point on. He went from the worst Paul Brady we've ever seen to one of the best Paul Bradys we've ever seen. Sean Lenny and Alan Garner are doing what they always do.
This might be, Dave, the best handball I've ever seen.
The men's round of 8, Dave Fink versus Charlie Shanks. Charlie goes on a 9-1 run to take down Dave Fink in that first game. Men's semifinals, upper bracket, Paul Brady taking down Sean Lenny in a tiebreaker, 11-9.
Really some of the most dramatic and exciting handball that we've ever seen. Unfortunately, both guys couldn't win because both guys deserved to win.
The bottom bracket semifinals now with Charlie Shanks versus Luis Moreno. During game 2, though, Charlie Shanks is going to try to see if he can get off the block early, not so late as he was last time. Now both players trading side outs here. Paul Brady's wanting to put it away right now. He knows that Charlie Shanks can go on those big runs. Andy Nett is going up against Sean Lenny. Sean Lenny wins 10-1, game point and match point. Sean Lenny's in the finals. Allen was a little bit stronger in that first game.
Garner just got more aggressive, I believe, in his shooting and kind of took over and was able to keep Emmett off balance.
For the men's final, the WPH Race for 8 stop number 2 gets Alan Garner and Sean Lenny.
Just seems like these guys are so evenly matched. Every time they play, it's down to the wire. Consecutive points on one of the greatest players in the game, Alan Garner. I mean, you just could never predict that. But with Sean Lenny, it's hard to predict anything. You can't predict where he's going to hit shots. You can't predict when he's going to hit 7 straight aces. That's why he's the freak, and that's why he's one of the most exciting and most fun players to watch in the sport.
Sean Lenny, the victor here, 15-13, 15-10.
Race for 8, stop number 3, Houston, Texas at the Family YMCA.
Wow, another shot there from Nadi Alvarado. There's another ace for Charlie Shanks, and he's about ready to go into the finals with one more great serve. Unbelievable serves right there from Charlie Shanks to close out Alan Garner. 15-6 in that second game after winning the first one, 15-11. Back at the YMCA in Houston, Texas, where the crowd is buzzing after Nadi Alvarado was on the receiving end of a 14-0 possible donut from Aaron Garner. Garner scores the 15th point with a 15-1 first game win, and then in game 2, it was like Alvarado said, let me show you how you put a donut on somebody, and he beats him 15-0 to force this tiebreaker. Nope, able to get it is Garner.
And Nadi does it.
You hear the round of applause here from the crowd, and much deserved round of applause coming too as we watch this replay here.
So Nadi Alvarado Jr., Dave, outscores Aaron Garner 30-7 in games number 2 and 3 after being outscored 15-1 in game number 1.
It's my second tournament, and I really like it. Yeah, I learned a couple pointers on serving, and everyone's just really supportive, and it's a really good clinic. It's just a good time.
Welcome to the Race for 8 men's finals in Houston, Texas. Nadia Alvarado, who was down 2-8, came back and tied the score at 8. In fact, it even was tied at 9 at one point, Dave.
And Charlie gets it there.
Charlie takes down Nadia Alvarado in game number 1, 15-11.
They are both killers. You don't see a lot of ceiling shots or whatever. They always go for the bottom board as low as they can go, you know, and that's what makes it exciting.
Charlie Shanks and Nadia Alvarado go into overtime and just sparred back and forth. Both of them had at least 3 chances to put it away. Nadia Alvarado had at least 3 chances to bring it into a tiebreaker. Charlie Shanks had at least 3, maybe even 4 chances to win the match, and finally Charlie Shanks does it. This could be the big setup for Charlie. Here it is. And he gets his win. And look at that emotion from Charlie Shanks. He gets his win. Race stop champion, Houston, Texas, Charlie Shanks. Y'all, look at that. And the crowd loves what they're seeing.
I'm David Fink from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this is Anchorage, Alaska.
For this tournament to be up in Anchorage at all is just such a pleasure, and this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to even get the chance to qualify. And that I actually was able to pull it through in that game, and I'm sitting here somewhere I never even thought I'd be. So I'm just, you know, tickled to be here, and I'm excited just to get the opportunity to play the pros at all.
The Race for 8 stop number 4, Anchorage, Alaska, is underway, and we've watched some great matches today. Nadia Alvarado versus David Fink. The last time they faced each other, David Fink defeated Nadia Alvarado in the national championships. But here in Anchorage, Alaska, everything changes.
You know, I was able to get off to a good start, build a 5-1 lead early in that first game. I felt like maybe it could be my day and repeat and duplicate what I did at the Nationals, but Nadia just took his game to a level I haven't seen in probably 3 or 4 years. I mean, just incredible serves and first strike handball. Never really had a chance to get into the match. I missed a couple of shots, but really didn't have many opportunities. Nadia Jr. just playing great handball, the best handball I've seen so far in Alaska. Nadia Jr. is very comfortable on these courts. He's staying with the tournament host. He won this event the last time he was here, taking out Luis Moreno and Dave Chapman, and it looks like he's well on his way to claiming his first ever race title here.
Nadia Alvarado certainly feels comfortable, and we are going to watch his progress as we continue on. We wish you were here at the Race for 8 in Anchorage, Alaska.
It's just been one of those, I would call it gangbuster years. It's been a lot of fun. And you have guys that come up to you, what do you do with this shot? What do you do here? That banter just makes everything you've done for the last 20 some odd years worth it.
Race for 8, Anchorage, Alaska. Men's quarterfinals were a blast today, as we had some really interesting matchups, some that we've never even seen before. Charlie Shanks versus the new prodigy on the market. His name is Anthony Celesta. What did you see?
Well, Dave, Anthony came out. He was not intimidated. He played shot for shot with Charlie Shanks, point for point. In fact, Dave, they staged a 36-minute first half battle where no player scored more than 3 points in a row at any point in that first half. Charlie Shanks led barely 15-13 at halftime. It really could have been either guy leading at halftime. We expected a second half very similar, but Charlie Shanks, as he's done so many times in the past, came back after that break, took his game to another level, started showing Anthony some shots I don't think he's ever seen before, and it was Charlie Shanks scoring 10 points consecutively. TTH, the teen heartthrob, only served once in the second half. Charlie Shanks wrapped that up and claimed the #1 ranking with his semifinal berth here. tremendous performance from Charlie Shanks, particularly in the second half.
Make it be known, Charlie Shanks is a force to reckon with, #1 ranked pro player after his win against Anthony Celesto. The crowd in Alaska enjoying this round of 8 action, and you too can watch great handball by just tuning in live at RACE4EIGHT.com.
Generally, coming up here to Alaska, it's pretty sweet. It's something I've never done before, and most players can probably say the same thing. So it's always cool to see new scenery, and welcome to the snow.
What makes it tick up here?
Yeah, what makes this group up here like this?
Well, there's nothing going on outside, so it's just kind of pretty cold here. So, you know, they're just happy. It's cool. It's great for viewing. Good glass back wall. Have the upper balcony.
These guys are
nice people.
There's moose. When you have moose outside that are going to kill you, you want to come inside and do something.
Is moose the plural of moose?
Well, you know, we didn't know what to expect from Sean Lenning coming off such a terrible performance in Houston, where he was shocked in the first round, came here still having not prepared and played much handball, but Sean Lenning jumped all over Andy Nett early, built a huge lead at halftime, and then it was Andy Nett who surged late. Sean Lenning, Dave, appeared to be completely exhausted, frustrated with himself, just couldn't get to that finish line. Andy Nett trailed just 20-24. Sean Lenning got the serve, appeared to be on the verge of losing that rally, and Andy Nett would have been serving with that dangerous serve down the left, but Andy hits himself with a very easy setup, and Sean Lenning moves on and advances to the semifinals.
Nobody looked better in this tournament than Nadi Alvarado did as he came in with those 40-year-old legs. Sean Lenning did not look very fresh, but what happened? Sean Lenning took down Nadi Alvarado in stunning fashion. Very exciting match here in Anchorage.
Well, it was probably, Dave, the best match of the tournament. Nadi Alvarado had his chances in game number 1. He led throughout that game. He had a 12-10 lead and a very easy setup with his right hand in front of the short line. He put that in the ground, went on to lose the momentum and lose that first game. Sean Lenning coasted through game number 2 after trailing 7-0. Came back to actually lead 14-12, had a couple of real good looks on his match point to end that match. Nadi Alvarado scrambled, Sean Lenning didn't put the ball away. Nadi comes back to score 4 consecutive points, take the match, the second game to overtime and win 16-12. The tiebreaker, Nadi just didn't seem like he had the legs, fell behind 12-2. Nadi made a valiant comeback when Sean Lenning seemed to be tired and a little bit flat. Sean hoping that Nadi would just miss and give him the match. Nadi wouldn't do it. Nadi cut all the way up to 10-13. He made an error there. Sean Lenning comes back with an ace to make it 14-10, and from there, Nadi just too far out of it. But for Nadi, Dave, a tremendous match.
The Race for 8 Anchorage, Alaska men's semifinals. Great matchup. Luis Moreno versus Charlie Shanks. Charlie won in Houston, took away the #1 ranking from Luis Moreno when he made it to the semifinals, but when they faced each other, a different story took place. Dave?
Well, Dave, those two have a true rivalry. Charlie Shanks had won 3 of their last 5 meetings. Luis came in here really kind of as an X factor. We didn't know what to expect, but Luis showed us, Dave, that he is rededicated. He just blew Charlie Shanks away in just 19 minutes. 15-1, 15-4. Charlie Shanks never even broke a sweat. I mean, couldn't even extend rallies beyond 4 or 5 shots. It was Luis Moreno who looked like the best player I've ever seen.
The WPH Race for 8 finals in Anchorage, Alaska. It puts up 2 longtime rivals, Sean Lenning, Luis Moreno. Now coming into it, Sean Lenning didn't look like he had the legs. Luis Moreno certainly just the way that he played in this tournament so far, Dave, has been unbelievable with his play, his legs, his arm. He looks as fresh as he ever has. But Sean Lenning jumped out to a 4-2 lead in the finals.
Well, Dave, Sean Lenning looked good early, but that was about the only time he looked good. Luis Moreno extended his winning streak in race play against Sean Lenning very easily today in just 21 minutes of total match time, and that includes the time between games. Luis Moreno just blitzing Sean Lenning, coming back from that 4-2 deficit in game number 1 to win 15-6. Sean Lenning never really in that game at all. Sean looked completely out of sorts, made a couple of hand errors, but it was Luis Moreno driving balls down the walls and hitting a number of flat rollouts with both hands. Game number 2, very much the same. Sean Lenning jumped out to a 3-1 lead. Luis Moreno closed the show by scoring 14 consecutive points in front of his incredibly appreciative Alaskan gallery. He has lived here. These guys love Luis Moreno, and they couldn't have been happier. I'm sure, Dave, as fans, they would have liked to have seen a closer match. They didn't get that, but they got a dominating performance from their favorite pro.
Not only is it snowing, but it's like 2 degrees out. So this might not be the best time to ask, but how do you feel about the locals here and the community and how much support they have for handball?
The people are just amazing. So I'm enjoying myself. I've been a lot of places, hung out with a lot of locals, but these locals are really active. They're into the game. They're there to support. So it's a kind of a different scenery than what I'm used to out of the locals. It's like they're more supportive than any other town I've been to, pretty much, when it comes to their whole handball group.
Unbelievable shot right there. Nadi Alvarado letting air out before he hit it. You can hear him on that to keep it down, but also have control at the same time. He has a problem, or had a problem, of over-hitting everything. And there it is. Nadi Alvarado takes down Dan Armijo and advances to the finals of the senior RACE4EIGHT. The men's 5th place final between Emmett Pichotte and Andy Nett.
It was an impressive 5th place finish. Emmett played extremely well here today. Andy played just a little bit better.
Stage of the game, and he did it twice in a row just to show you.
I just can't believe what just happened there. Dave Fink had the momentum coming back. It's so frustrating, and he doesn't even want to leave the court. Just losing 15-13. Let's see what kind of parting shot he gives the referee. None. Just walks out quietly. Game number 2, 0-0 at the Denver Athletic Club. My name is Dave Vincent here for the conclusion of the semifinals. Dave Fink loses the first one 13-15 alongside broadcast partner Jake Plummer.
14-1.
14-1, game point and match. Oh, between the legs from Sean. The crowd loves it, and that closes it out. That was unbelievable. Luis Moreno won the first one 15-13.
We saw absolutely everything in that match. We saw some phenomenal play, digging, shot execution, and we also saw things get a little squirrely. Unbelievable match.
Charlie Shanks took game number 2 15-13. And it is. Luis Moreno takes down Charlie Shanks. I don't know how it happened. Luis is upset with himself still. And Nadi takes this serious, Dave.
Yeah.
He does not, he knows that he's overmatched Matt on a lot of shots, and he's going to go for it here. Matt's just going to let him take it, and this is over with. And we are also going to take a quick break. Nadi Alvarado wins the senior tour here in Denver, Colorado, and retains his #1 position on that over 40 group for the final between Luis Moreno and Sean Lenny. Luis Moreno takes another yellow jersey home. Lenning was up in game 2, 10-3.
Well, Sean just did not have a lot of opportunities there when Luis got hot. I mean, Luis dictated every rally with just amazing serves, and then he followed it up with so much power and kills. And Sean did have a good look at the service return at 14-13. That ball popped off the revolving door, came way around, and Sean didn't do anything with it. He left a attempted kill shot way up, and Luis buried the first strike in the left corner.
And Luis Moreno came back to defeat him 15-13. Salt Lake City has been one heck of a stop. My name is Dave Vincent, alongside David Fink. As we look at the quarterfinals, he had Charlie Shanks defeat Andy Nett. Charlie just on a roll right now. That score was 25-12. What happened in that match?
Well, it's always interesting when those two giants get together, both guys standing at about 6'3". It's so uncommon to see two guys that tall on the same court, and both guys play a similar style. Great serves down the right. Charlie Shanks right now is just playing stronger than anybody in this sport, and he proved it against Andy Nett. Took down Andy Nett 25-12, and of course Andy Nett went on to win 5th place. You know, he's playing good ball.
Earlier in the day, it was Sean Lenny destroying the phenom Martin Mulkerns by the score of 25-6.
We expected a really close match, maybe even a Mulkerns upset against Lenning based on Sean's first round performance where he nearly lost to Carlos Chavez, but Sean Lenning just too much. I mean, it looked like a man against a boy.
Defeated Victor Perez by the score of 25-16. I know that there were times where you played really good ball during that little run, and then you seemed like that bad cold that you have caught up to you, and Vic would go on a run, not to lessen how good of a player he is.
Well, I'm very impressed with Vic. It's like you said, Dave, during one of the webcasts, he has a program. He goes in there and executes a game plan. He's strong, he's mentally strong, he's physically strong, he's quick, he's got a great first step, and he's got a lot of power. You know, it's difficult. You're dealing with the altitude and some sort of bronchitis or pneumonia, but he does play a great game, and he showed that. They finished 6th place here, and he had a very good year.
Abraham Montijo from Tucson, Arizona, and one of his sparring mates, Luis Moreno, kicked it off in that quarterfinal match.
Abraham, Dave, has taken his game to another level. This season, he proved that he can qualify in any field. He was the top seed in the qualifier here. He made it through there easily, and then he runs into Luis Moreno, who he's been playing pretty tough in practice, as you and I know. Didn't do quite as well here in this main draw, but he did advance to his first ever race quarterfinal, so he has to feel good about that, ultimately losing to Luis 25-10.
You look at the upper bracket, Sean Lenning going up against Charlie Shanks. I can tell you just from sitting around the crowd, 50-50, people didn't know which way this was going to go, but in the end, it was Charlie Shanks defeating Sean Lenning by the score of 25-3. Sean Lenning all out of sorts from the very first serve. What went on there?
Well, there's not much to say about that match. I mean, Charlie Shanks was motivated, he was intense. Sean Lenning was neither. I mean, Sean Lenning looked flat, he looked deflated, didn't look like he wanted to be there, and he just wasn't himself at all. Charlie Shanks, of course, doesn't care what his opponent is doing. He's going to do his thing, in which he did. Just crushed Sean Lenning 25-3. I'm not sure we've ever seen Sean look that bad.
You had to face Luis Moreno, one of your sparring mates, back in Tucson, Arizona, in the bottom bracket. You went up against a guy that you have beaten 3 out of the last 4 meetings in the local practice sessions down in Tucson. Today it was a little different. Luis was under the weather. You were under the weather. How did that fare out?
Well, you know, Luis got off to a great start. He was serving extremely well. Very difficult for me to take him out of that front court because he had so many aces, and he was hitting the ball so well, so clean, and so hard. He was really attacking the ball and hitting a lot of kill shots. You see Luis sometimes rely on just power and driving the ball back, 2-wall passes. He was going for his kills. He took a 15-6 lead at halftime. I wasn't playing terribly, but I wasn't getting a lot of chances. I regained the momentum. I established my own momentum there in the second half. I cut the deficit to 14-18. Luis was frustrated. Things were going my way. I didn't capitalize on a couple of opportunities. Luis stretched the lead to 22-14, which was pretty much insurmountable. I did come back to 18, but ultimately missed a shot, and Luis hit a great kill shot to win that match 25-18 to advance to the final.
Well, for those at home, 25-18 is very respectable against Luis Moreno. The previous 2 rounds, Luis's opponents only scored 17 points.
Dave, today it was all Charlie Shanks. Charlie Shanks just completely dominating Luis Moreno. Took a 15-2 lead at halftime and really just kept his foot on the gas all the way through, ultimately closing out Luis Moreno in his second ever race title, 25-7, emphatic victory for the Lurgan boy from Ireland.
Charlie Shanks retains his #1 position as the top player on the WPH Race4EIGHT Tour, but that is the world rankings, and he is going to have to go up against one of his countrymen, Paul Brady, up in at the Players' Championship in Seattle, Washington. Charlie Shanks defeating Luis Moreno by the score of 25-8.
At the Washington Athletic Club for the Race4EIGHT Players' Championship. My name is Dave Vincent alongside John Pike. We have this amazing tournament going on this weekend, which already has seen rivalries and great matchups. Charlie Shanks versus Nadia Alvarado Jr.
Boy, he's really just put himself in the driver's seat. A convincing win like that against a great opponent. I mean, Charlie took care of his business eventually. He's in great shape right now.
I actually felt that Charlie had a chance of losing that match against Nadia Alvarado just based on their past history, which would have been a terrible way for the #1 player in the world to start, but that's not what happened here. He won 15-12, and then he won 15-1. Fink and Emmett Pichotte. It was Emmett Pichotte going up 5-0 to start off the match in that game number 1. Then Dave Fink had his own 10-0 run. Emmett goes on a 5-0 run himself. Traded points back and forth. Then Emmett pulled off to win 15-12. Emmett Pichotte advances here after taking down David Fink 15-12 and 15-4.
Were you guys excited? See, that's why I won. Right there.
Luis Moreno and Andy Nett. Luis wins the first one. We're here in game number 2, all tied up, with Andy actually making a nice little comeback there in game number 1, and it seemed like he had the momentum going into game number 2, where he took a nice little comfortable lead, but Luis pecked away at it. It was Luis Moreno taking down Andy Nett 15-9, 15-9. It's a senior first round, as John Bike will be going up against Matt McLaughlin.
John was off to a nice start here as he built a 6-3 lead, but Matt McLaughlin scored 5 consecutive points. A combination of ace serves, kill shots, and a couple of John Bike errors.
And John climbs and claws his way back into this match with a 5-point run.
John has 24, serving to win, and he hits a crack and gets it, and John advances to the finals of the senior championship, defeating Matt McLaughlin. The other semifinal of the senior championship as we cruise through this players championship in Washington Athletic Club with Dan Armijo versus Andy Shad. There it is, Andy Shad advances to the finals. Sort of as if Charlie just says, you know, I just need a couple points, let me just go get them, and he did. 15-12, closing out game number 2 after taking the first one 15-7, and Charlie is the outright leader right now in his pool, and he's geared up to go to the finals. Fink versus Alvarado. Oh. Still interesting to watch him play.
40.
Look at even Nadi having a great time with you.
This has been the most anticipated match of the Race for 8 season, and it has not disappointed. Paul Brady looked like he was in the driver's seat, winning game number 1 15-9, had a nice lead in game number 2, but Luis stormed back. He scores the tiebreaker here. This is all you can ask for as a fan, the 2 best players in the world.
Good match.
How's that not a replay?
Well,
Moreno wants.
Good match. There it is. Paul Brady defeats
Great playing, guys.
Luis Moreno by the score of 11-5 and advances. Charlie Shanks advances with a 15-4 win. Oh, I like that shot, John. Oh, John thought that he won it, and he doesn't, though. And Andy Shad comes back and gets it.
Incredible. I want to thank you, Dave, for having the senior men come as well, because it's truly a treat for everybody in the gallery to watch. Many of us have seen both Shad and Bike play before, and I think it's an awesome idea. And as usual, the WPH is on the cutting edge of handball evolution.
And that's the match.
And you see Charlie using that cut open hand paddle. Perfect shot there from Paul.
Watch what Paul does here. Wow. Just unbelievable.
And Charlie Shanks completely exhausted. Paul Brady wins the Players' Championship of the Race for 8-2. Charlie Shanks, a tremendous season, Dave. 2 titles, the Player of the Year. But today was Paul Brady's day. He went undefeated in pool play, Dave, defeating Sean Lenning, Luis Moreno, and Andy Nett. Earned his spot in the final, and then took out Charlie Shanks. Paul Brady lost just 1 game in 4 matches.